Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. I'm Rick Plaskett, a certified business and leadership coach here in Columbus, Ohio. Today, my guest is Bob Grote. He is the owner of a family-run business, Grote Company. They have been in existence and actually have expanded globally over the last 2 decades or more. Today, we're going to talk with him about the business, some of his challenges, the best practices, and share a peek into what it's really like to build and operate a business, and not only build and operate a business, but position it for a legacy and continuing into the future. If this is your first time on the channel, please like and subscribe so you get notifications of our future conversations. Hey, Bob, welcome and thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it, and I'm happy to be here.
Super, super. Hey, for the audience, if you would, I mean, you've got a fascinating background and an incredible business. If you would, give us a brief overview of both of those. How did you get here today, and what exactly is the business from your words?
Excellent. Well, obviously a twofold question. One, I'll talk a little tiny bit about myself. I'm an engineer by schooling. I realized very quickly that that's not my best career path. Quickly got into sales and never looked back. And after doing sales of various automation, componentry, and things of that nature, I joined my uncle over here 25 years ago in Columbus, and really began selling what Grote manufactures, and have never looked back. It has been the best move I could have made. It's a great business, a great industry, which I'm sure we'll talk about as we go forward. And so I ended up here and happy to be here. So Grote is a food equipment manufacturer. And most people will quickly go to, so what do you make? And slicers, yes, peelers, yes, but they're thinking at the deli side. We make equipment that goes into the industrial food processing industry. So our customers are making the bags of potato chips. Our customers are making the frozen foods that you find in your stores. Our customers are making the poultry that you're pulling out of the grocery stores. Our customers are making the food that goes to the restaurants that they continue to prepare and turn into what their end result is. And so those are our customers. You Most of the time unnamed customers. You would not notice those as a general consumer, but that they're behind all the food production in the world, and that's what we do.
Man, that's fabulous. So to set the stage for the listeners today, how is the ownership structure of the
Sure.
business currently? You mentioned a family run. You also mentioned an uncle. Are there any outside investors?
So Roe Company actually has four family owners and one outside investor. Um, the four family was started by my uncle in 1972. Which, if some of the people, especially the local folks here, if they probably are aware of Donato's Pizza. Well, the same gentleman that started Donato's Pizza also started Grote Company, and that is my uncle. Um, I'm an owner. My uncle's still an owner. My brother joined me. My brother is an owner, and then Jim Grote's son is also an owner. We recently brought in a institutional investor and a minority share to help us with our growth strategy going forward.
Super, super. Thank you. So what does that mean? What is your role today?
I'm I'm the CEO and chief cheerleader. I think probably is one of the roles that I play. It's interesting. My brother and I, he's officially the COO, and we naturally split duties based on what our skill set is. We're the ones that are running the business day to day. I tend to be more outward focused. I tend to be more out with the industry. Being part of the industry, loving the industry, learning the industry. Jack takes a more, I wouldn't say internal focus, but a more customer specific slash internal focus into our business and to help our leaders to improve and to grow the business. He's the guy that has to find a way to make the budget this year. Okay. I'm the guy that is worrying about the budget 5 years from now. Okay. That's kind of where things break. And it works. It's a natural thing and it's really good. The reason, and I'll mention it. I interface a lot, and actually we all do now with our new institutional investors, and we brought them on to basically add some rocket fuel to our growth. We've been growing like crazy, and my goals are to double this again in another 3 years, and that's not a trivial thing to do. So bringing on some people that understand business as well as some and bring some capital into the game will allow us to do that.
Fantastic. So as your role as Mr. Outside and your brother's Mr. Inside, what would be the typical breakdown of a week of your business in your focus of strategic and planning versus tactical blocking and tackling?
Uh, Almost all of my time is involved more on the big picture, strategic, the I guess the emotional leadership of the company and where to go. I get a lot of I'm involved in various industry boards. I'm involved with some of our bigger customers still deal directly with me or that type of thing. But most of it, there's still it's more of a general focus on how we're growing the business. A lot of work in acquisition, developing the relationships to that hopefully someday may turn into an acquisition for us if it makes sense for both parties. Those things can take years, as you would guess, and even sometimes decades of relationship building to bring that to fruition later. And that is a key part of our growth strategy is acquisitions.
Super, super. That is unique through the people that I have interviewed to have somebody that is openly focused on acquisition as a growth strategy. You know, most of the time, the people that I've worked with is someone comes knocking at their door saying, "Hey, I want out of my business. Do you want it?" You know,
Right.
and then we have to start as a reactionary, but you being proactive and looking reminds me of my former life in corporate America, where I was working with a major global company in
Yep.
mergers and acquisitions. And I traveled the world, filled two passports, looking for those
Yes,
specific
I do that.
right
Right.
fits. Yes,
And
yes, it's
honestly,
fabulous.
I find it quite enjoyable. You learn so much dealing with all these other businesses that are in our space, but are doing things differently or found a different niche or whatever the hell it is, right? And it's just to me is fascinating. And the relationships that you'll find, because where I make the most headway is that first generation owner who does not have a succession plan and for various reasons. I mean, sometimes the kids just don't want to be involved in it. They don't have anybody to sell it to internally within the business or whatever it is. And so there's a lot of that out there right now. There's a lot of baby boomers that are kind of looking, okay, how do I get out of this? How do I move on? And I think we're in a really great spot to bring that family business into another family business because they're afraid. A lot of people are afraid to take their family business and give it to a public company. And so I think we're in a unique spot to be able to do that.
And I love your vision and your focus of that opportunity there. You know, the opportunity that you've identified of the family run business that the kids don't want it. Well,
Yep.
there's two factors going on there. Number one is all of the boomer owned businesses, there's not enough millennials and Gen Zs even in existence to buy all of those businesses.
Correct.
No.
Yes.
And then number two is how many decades did mom or dad come home from owning this business and complain at the dinner table, oh man, what an awful day. And
Yep.
then all of a sudden they turn to
You
the
want
next
this?
generation and say, hey, would you like this business?
Right.
To which the
Oh,
son or daughter
no.
turns back
Right.
and says, Mom, Dad, I thought you loved me. Why do you
Right.
want to give me
Right. I
this
do want me to
torture?
suffer like you did. Right. Yeah. No,
And,
there's a lot of truth to that. And it's
and
funny to
it,
say that my son joined me 5 years ago, and I have three children, and I never ever once brought up the idea of any of the three children joining me in the business. That I secretly want one of them to. Oh yeah, I did. Okay, secretly, but I never once said, "Hey, why don't you check it out? Why don't you see if you might want to do something?" And then what happened was with my son. We were looking at an acquisition that ultimately fell through over in Western France. And my brother, we were sitting around talking, okay, how are we going to run this? What are we going to do? That kind of thing. And my brother goes, what about your son Jack? Okay, he was a CPA working at a public accounting firm. Okay, and he goes, "What about your son Jack?" And I go, "Really?" And so my brother brought it up, and I said, "Why don't you approach him?" And my brother brought it to his attention that this is an opportunity. You want to go spend a few years in France? What young single male doesn't want to go spend a few years in France? Okay. And so he came and joined us, and then the deal fell through. And so we sent him to Boise, Idaho instead, which hey, it's a great place. Okay. But we sent him to Boise. We knew that he couldn't spend his first formative years within our company like next to me, right? That would be bad. So it worked out real well, and he's here and he's happy and he's growing, and gosh, it's exciting.
Bob, as you shared that story, and thank you so much. I love it. But you've also brought out, and I want to ask you to share with the audience what makes your business so special. Why are you doing this? I think that that's the secret sauce that pulls all of these stories and energy together. And I'd love for you to share that with the audience.
Sure. And it's a simple thing I can sum up as what we preach and extol the virtues of is agape capitalism. Agape is the highest form of love. It's a Greek word that means the highest form of love, and we believe that, and we agree with everybody that capitalism is the best form of government, of business, that kind of thing that you could have. Okay, it's been the most successful, brought the most people out of poverty. Where it goes wrong sometimes is it's misguided. And we believe that agape capitalism is the answer, which basically its tenets are to do the right thing, to lead with love, follow the golden rule. Those are its tenets. It's pretty simple when you think about it. Okay. And if you follow all those things, when you're making a decision, you do the right thing with your decision. And so Jim's goal when he started his business, and thus it became my passion. And it's our company's passion. We preach it, we love it. But that's the agape coin right behind me. That is something we live for. And his goal was to always, how big can you get and still maintain the tenets of agape capitalism within your organization? So you can go to bed at night, so you can sleep well, you can do all those things. And if we can get big enough, then we can show the world that you don't have to give up your principles. You don't have to do that to become big. You can be successful. We're successful, but will you pay more attention to me if I'm more successful? Yes, you will. Okay. And so that's why we want to continue to grow. That's why we want to continue to treat our customers right. That's why we want to be a dominant force in the industry and keep all of those tenets of agape capitalism and ingrained in our soul and our heart. And it's funny, if you don't mind me going rambling for a couple more seconds. The When we acquire a company, we talk about that with the day one with the troops at that new place, okay? And try and you be amazed on how well accepted it is. A bit skeptical in the beginning. Don't get me wrong. They go, what? Oh, come on, but people are dying for that. People that work in businesses are dying for that type of leadership, for that type of company to be part of, because they want that. Okay, they don't necessarily need to be the highest paid, to be the coolest company. What they need is a place to call home, the place to feel. I hate to say it, but place to feel loved, and that's kind of where we're going, and that's, I think, our differentiation point, that both with ourselves internally as well as our customers. Our customers recognize it. They recognize that that's how we do business, and they're like, "Wow, that's refreshing. You might have screwed up, but you did it with love." So, right. So,
Bob, you've opened up a question or the door for a deeper question
yeah,
there. And that is the entire time you shared that portion of your vision, you used the word we, not I, but we. And I think it's important that we cover the topic of building a great team. So the first question I would have is, as you describe this we, how would you describe your leadership style in business?
I, I am like the emotional leader of the business. I'm very, for lack of a better term, laissez-faire when it comes to the day-to-day leadership with these individuals. They they uh, uh, they know what's going on the ground. If you set goals with them, they know what my goals are. I communicate those, and they naturally know their goals and how they fit within that bigger picture. So my leadership is let them do the work. We'll help you. Okay, we'll help nudge you where it needs nudged. We'll help you if you ask. But most of the time they know the answers. Okay, 99.9% of the time they know the answers, and let them make those decisions and let them roll forward. And I just had this discussion with one of our divisional leaders here yesterday, and he was chastising himself a bit on some of the decisions he's made that got him to a point where he's like, I'm not happy with that. But he goes, thanks for letting me make those decisions and realizing that maybe I could have gone a different direction. And I said, the only advice I can give you on that is if you're not feeling 100% comfortable about your decision, then maybe we should talk about it. Okay. But if you're comfortable 99.9% of the time, you're right. Go, baby. Okay. We didn't hire you because you weren't smart. We didn't hire you because, we didn't think you could do the job. And so let them run. And some of it is just my personal style. I trust people. I'm definitely not a domineering dictator. That's just not me. And there's also a necessity. The company is so spread out and it got so much larger than when I first started with the company. I can't touch everything. I can't be involved in everything. I got to delegate. And so you just got to let things go. And it's worked. It's been good, and people generally are happy. And even when I'll bring up even the new acquisitions, some of the first questions of the leadership there when you bring them on is like, okay, so what do I got to do? And are you gonna is this gonna be command and control? Or are you gonna, and it's like, no. And they'll just communicate with me occasionally. Okay, is all I want. And at the end of the day, they'll sit there and go, hey, you know what? It's the only thing different from where it was before is it's better, right? Where it's not, I didn't, didn't come in slashing and burning and changing and all these other things. You said, and I always tell them, well, you were being successful before. Why do I want to mess that up? I just want to help you be more successful, right? That's all. And some of that's just being part of the team, part of the bigger good. So anyway, I don't know if I explained that well, but
No, you absolutely did, and it was refreshing to hear something that I first heard long ago when I graduated from West Point and was in the military. And a sage old sergeant pulled me aside and says, Lieutenant, a good plan executed aggressively will always yield better plan or better results than a perfect plan that you are waiting to execute.
amen, amen,
So
amen.
it's fabulous.
And it's
Hey, Bob,
I love that statement just because we're an engineering-led company, and engineers have a tendency to want to make perfect. And some of our struggles and challenges are always like, you know what? We can sell it like this. I know you can make it better, but let's sell it like this. It solves a problem and will continue the evolution of the product line as opposed to just wait until it's perfect because I got to sell it sooner or later. I hate to tell you, I need revenue, right? So
it's the actual manifestation of that concept was when I was learning to fire a rifle, they would teach us ready, aim, fire. When it came to actually using the rifle, we very quickly adapted ready, fire,
fire,
aim because
aim.
you could see where the first one hit and adjusted from there
Yep,
instead of sitting there envisioning what a perfect shot would be as you're overrun. So I
yep,
love it. Hey, Bob, as you look forward, you had mentioned you wanted to double the company,
yep,
minimum of double the company
yep.
through acquisition over the next 3 years. What changes might you have to make, or are you envisioning in your own leadership style?
I it's interesting, and I have to admit I'm in process of that now. It's My son is very similar in his outlook to the individuals, his personality, and actually, he's better than I am from a lot of other aspects. And so, involving him more and more in what I am doing on a regular basis and allow me to focus, I hate to say it, specifically on only very big picture, and that includes the
Mhm.
acquisitional efforts as well, but only big pictures like, you know, we really need to fill in this gap in our product line, be that through development or be that through acquisition. Those kind of things I'll still be involved in, but I must let him do a lot more of the legwork because we're just going to be too big, right?
Mhm.
And so you got to divide and conquer, and he has the capabilities and the last name doesn't hurt, and has the desire and already the respect of the 350 employees that we have. That he's better than his years, I can tell you that. So that's how I have to grow, and I have to relinquish some of those things. I think it becomes easier to relinquish them as you get older. Uh, it was a lot harder when I was 35. Now at 60, you realize. I think again, wisdom, right? It's like, oh, I can't do everything, and I can't work 20 hours a day anymore. Okay, I used to, right? And I don't think I can do that anymore.
Right, that's right. So you had mentioned your son Jack a number of times.
Yeah.
Do you have a formal leadership development program to bring him up, or are you looking back to your succession from your uncle to you and your brother and relying on the family and the family values?
It's more the latter than the formal. We're
Okay.
definitely not super formal around here. It's still a family business that we do a lot with a handshake, a smile, and hey, I'll stop by your office and we'll discuss it. The what we've done purposefully since he's come aboard 5 years ago is get him involved in different aspects of our business. The first thing we did, as I mentioned, is we sent him out to Boise, Idaho. Okay, so he became in sales for that division. Okay, which is our potato processing division. Okay, and he got into sales and did that. Learned the industry well, learned customers, learned how to sell. He's never sold before, right? Just did a fantastic job at that. He's come back here. We got him involved in our aftermarket business. A big portion of our business is consumables and spare parts because we sell equipment. Equipment lasts 20 years. You constantly are selling parts to keep the equipment running, keep it up to date, whatever. And it's a very profitable side of our business as well. And so we got him involved there to start looking at that. How can we do it better? How can we support our customer better? And so he's involved that side of our business. And now he's moving on more into getting the last acquisition, getting involved with the acquisitional front. So hopping in and really being the headquarters feet on the ground for the first 6 months at that location to work with the local management to basically integrate them into our business. And he's did a bang up job on the first one. We're about ready to do another one. He'll be involved in that. And so again, letting him grow by doing. He's currently, he goes, should I take my MBA? I said, yeah, go ahead. Right. He's getting his MBA. So you can do that when you're 31. You can do all these things at once. Right. So
Right.
and now's the time to do it because you're not going to want to do it when you're 50. I can tell you
That's
that.
right.
Right.
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
So I'm curious. Imagine the Fourth of July picnic, and you and
Yeah.
your son and your brother and your uncle are all together.
Yeah.
And if I were to ask each of you, Bob, what would you say Jack's desire and vision of the future is? And then if I were to ask Jack, Jack, what do you think your dad's desire and future of the business and himself? Is that something that's a topic of family discussions often?
We have not done it on the at that level. Has Jack and I talked about it? Yes, we've talked about it directly. We do travel some together. In fact, I get to travel with him next week, which is one of the best times to have those kind of conversations. Do you like where this is heading? Do you understand what I want to do? Because it matters what I want to do too, right? And how I ultimately will phase my way out of this business on a day-to-day basis, right? And talking about time frames, and and letting him talk about, his goals from a family standpoint, even, and he's newly married a year ago. He's got our first grandkid on the way, things like this. And so how does that fit in our overall plan? So we talk a lot about it between us two, and probably my brother Jack and I two Jacks, okay, brother Jack and son Jack. That's why I put a little prefaces to them. And they, those conversations happen within us three a lot. Jim Grote, he's less day-to-day involved in the business, and his is more of he he wants to see family continue the legacy. Okay, and he's excited. He trusts our judgment, our evaluation of where we're heading. And in fact, my brother Jack has been a biggest proponent of my son, and I purposefully keep it more quiet just because I don't want it to sound biased because he is my offspring. So it's interesting conversations that honestly bode well for his future, because the the general managers of the various divisions, things like that, they they'd rather talk to him and work with him. Okay, and it's like, cool, let's do that, right? So it's really nice. Yeah, that's it.
In a family-run business, when the family dynamics are that open and willing to look at the future, and I don't have to agree with what you want for it, but if I know what it
What it
is,
is, right?
then I can help you.
Yep.
As opposed to so many times when I sit down with multi-generational businesses and I ask that question, the very first three words are, well, I think.
Yep.
It's like, okay, your first homework assignment is to go back and turn think into know.
Yes, and I agree with
Spend
that.
as much
Absolutely.
time, because you can't move forward if you're moving forward on an assumption. And that's the great thing about the family, is you've got all of that extra ability to communicate,
Yep.
to finish each other's sentences, and to understand the spirit of what you want to do. And that's so much easier when the family is ticking than in corporate America, where you have strangers that only come together. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that today.
Oh no, honestly, there's a special satisfaction of working with family and being part of a family business that I didn't have. I worked in corporate America as well. I worked within a big international company. Okay, and though I enjoyed it, okay, there was some camaraderie, but it's just not what I see here day to day. I mean, it truly is just a big old family, and we just happen to be the last name of the family. Okay, a few of us, so it's really pretty cool.
That's fabulous. So, well, listen, we have certainly covered an awful lot of ground in our conversation today. And for
Enjoyed it.
those of you that are watching, I highly, highly encourage you to save this, come back a few times and take a look, because Bob has absolutely shared a bucket load of great nuggets on running business. So as we wrap up, what I'd like to do is hit a section of rapid fire questions. All I'm looking
Okay.
for, Bob, is single word, top of your mind, what comes first? You ready
Okay.
for these?
I
Yeah,
am.
I see you. You're
Give it to
limbering
me.
up. All right. Yeah. Super. Bob, what's the key to your success?
Interesting. I would say it's what was described as woo, winning others over, by a book called Strength Finders. I have a natural innate ability. I'm very outgoing, and people, for whatever reason, want to talk to me, and I think it really helps.
That's great. That's great. What's one piece of advice that you would give to other business owners that may or may not be running a family business like you?
I would say never stop pushing yourself and never stop growing. A lot, if you look at the most successful people, they read. They always read because they want to better themselves. And I was born and raised a prolific reader, and I will continue to always be. So don't stop. Don't stop growing. Okay, just because you're successful in your business, don't stop growing.
So let's grow on that one. What's a book that you're reading now or you've read that you'd recommend to somebody else?
That's easy. I just finished Infinite Game. The Infinite Game by, what was that? Simon Sinek, I believe his name is.
Yep.
And I just like its attitude towards business, that business is not point to point, okay, win or loser. It is, let's build a sustainable, uh, universal and forever business, okay? I'll, and so it fits so well in my philosophy of, hey, I'm planning on turning this over, right? And then my son will plan on turning it over, okay? There is no end to this game, okay? It's the infinite game. So,
Absolutely. I love Simon Sinek. I have
yep.
read a number of his things, and he is the one person I respect so much for studying my background, the military, and
Hmm.
yet being able to take what he has observed and what he has learned, push it through a thesaurus and bring it out in just regular business terms of why, leaders eat last.
Yes.
Why
Great.
is that?
Yes.
and
Yes.
and I love his vision on that. And he has the ability to see what I lived and
Yep.
then be able to tell that story from an
Translate it. Right.
observer
Yes.
much better than I can. So
Yeah.
that
Amen.
is
I agree
fabulous.
100%.
Super, super. All right. One more here, and that is if there was one area of your business that you could improve immediately, and tomorrow it would be exactly what you want it to be, what would that area be?
Easy. Sales.
Sales.
Sales. It and some of it's me, because I was a very successful salesman, and so I don't believe we're world class yet in our sales efforts. And if I could change that tomorrow, I would.
Super, super. So before we get to the final question, Bob, I've asked you an awful lot of questions today,
Yeah.
but if somebody watching this in the audience would like to get in touch with you, either because they want to become your next greatest customer,
Or
or
salesman,
they're the
right?
business or a
Right.
salesman or a business that they want to be acquired by you, how would they get in touch with you?
Easiest way would be, just sales@grotecompany.com.
Okay.
So GROTECOMPANY.com. Hop on our website. There's tons of way to contact. I'm B Grote at grotecompany.com. So 100 different ways of getting a hold of us. If you hop on our website, it has thousands of ways of getting a hold of us. So
Super, super. Thank you so much. All right, here's the last question for
yes, sir.
today. What's most inspiring to you?
Uh, as of today, okay, and actually the last probably several months. And this sounds really sappy, my wife. And I'll tell you why. She's officially retired finally, and she is busier than any human being I've ever met in my life, volunteering, uh, taking care of people, taking care of neighbors, taking care of family, doing nice things for people, really making a difference in the world. And uh, she's busier than I am. I got the easy job. And it amazes me that she has so much to give, and that's inspiring.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Bob. It's been a pleasure. Hey, Bob, thank you again for joining us today and sharing your journey and sharing your very, very unique viewpoint on business and treating business with that agape capitalism. I absolutely love that theme, and I'm going to share that with others as much as I possibly can.
Excellent.
Audience, if you were inspired by this today, I invite you to listen into this interview. And folks, make it a great day, and bye for now.
Thank you, Rick.